What other ways would you say, have you seen that work, like work to get rid of excess inventory? Because you can only get rid of a certain amount of your inventory through marketplaces, given the hypothesis that the product doesn't have that much demand in consumers' mind, right? There's a reason why it's an access inventory. So would you say, like, what other avenues can a brand explore?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple of additional options. I would say attending trade shows where they sell a lot of off price, like the off-price trade show itself in Vegas, or there's also another trade show I love, ASD. There's a lot of distributors and brokers that will buy quite a bit of inventory and they have the network to sell through that inventory. So if you're trying to look for a quick way to get rid of that inventory and have someone that is an expert in that field and has a network, I would say that's a great approach, is find a distributor or or a broker that can help facilitate getting that inventory out of your warehouse for you. I'd say that's a big one. And then also, I would also look at what's going out with overseas, not to be a plug for JD, but there's a lot of major businesses happening, outside of the US, so if a brand is solely focused on the US, start looking at the Mexico market, start looking at China, start looking at all of these other markets, because there is a significant appetite for American brands outside of the US. And I think finding the right channels and the right retailers and capitalizing on that is, a great way to also get rid of it.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I think using the B2B channels and looking outside of internationally is a great way for a brand. If their primary market is US, it also becomes a way for them to expand in the secondary markets and actually build a presence over there, acquire some customers just by sending their access inventory. They're taking a smaller risk, but still getting to enter the industry, because at the end of the day, their name is attached to the product, and who knows, by through that they would acquire some customers who would then want to buy their regular inventory and things like that. In the B2B liquidation space, something that I've seen where brands hesitate to work with the B2B wholesalers and brokers and distributors is that what would happen to my, like, product if I give somebody 20,000 units of my product. how would they how would they resale it in different channels? Like, does that concern come up with brands when deciding on which distributors and wholesalers to work with? That where exactly would it end? Is the wholesaler or distributor selling to bin stores? Are they selling to discount retailers? So does that concern come in with respect to making sure that the inventory is going into the right channels where they want to see?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think for the higher in fashion you go, for a brand, the less likely you'll find it easy to find a retailer or a store to sell it to, just because they are very limited, are limiting, to make sure that the retailer you're selling it to has the proper brand adjacencies. I would say a big brand like, let's say, Dolce and Gabbana or Gucci, or a big designer brand, they're not going to work with just any old distributor. They usually have a broker that they work with specifically, that they probably have a relationship with, that understands the luxury market and has that network. They more than likely will probably start off with going to, the Rack or Saks Off Fifth, and start there. And then if they still can't exhaust it, then they'll try to find additional locations. I get a lot of liquidators of designer brands come to me because a lot of them don't want the visibility to a lot of these big retailers in the US. They don't want the Neiman's, the Nordstroms, the Saks to see that they sold it at off price, or that a retailer is selling it off price. So they'd rather have it not visible to them over to us in China on JD.com, or they'll put it on Tmall or something like that. I think that's a big benefit to a lot of these high-end brands. So I would say a lot of companies do care. I mean, even an opening price point one, they have to consider, where it's going and what it's going to mean for their brand ultimately.
No, definitely. I mean, yeah, I resonate with that. Like, brands would find more value in selling it internationally than in the same market, also because they have retail relationships to maintain. If a brand has a retailer relationship with Saks Five Street or like other brands, they would not want to see it in, like an off-price store, and the retailer would have a problem with that. So Yeah, I guess a way to summarize it is that every brand is different. Some have, like some would want to use a channel, some would want to use another channel. The ability to have flexible, like everyone tries to build a certain path where which they use to exhaust the inventory they have.